G'day, Spice Legends. Welcome to Burner Bites Down Under, the hottest show down under. Tonight we are joining ourselves with Daniel, aka Hot Wheels. Bit of a legend. He's representing Queensland in the Australian Chili Championships, and we've got him on tonight because he's going to have a bit of a chat with us and get to know us a little before the Australian Chili Championship pops up. That's going to be a really wild, crazy competition. Still cannot believe how much is about to occur in that competition and how many people are going to be viewing it around the world. It's going to be pretty wild, and whether they're going to get through this scoreless. So, without further ado, let's show you a bit of what he's facing and some of the guys that he's facing, and then we'll bring old Dan to the front of the stage, eh?
It's time to play the game. Time to play the game! It's all about the game and how you play it. All about control, and if you can take it. All about your stand, if you can play it. It's all about pain and who's gonna make it.
All right, Dan Flynn, how you doing, legend, aka Hot Wheels? How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, good, mate.
Looking very calm and very zen-like, almost. Like every time I talk to you, you got that real zen kind of vibe about you, mate. I don't know how you do it. Is that part of how you get through? Is it just staying very calm in the moment?
I've said before, but I'll say it again. I've dealt with a lot of pain in my life, physical and otherwise. So I guess it's part of the human condition that we tend to be a little apprehensive and a little afraid of pain. We tend to run away from it.
Yeah. And you instead run towards it. And you're like...
In most circumstances, we probably should run from it because it's there to keep us safe. But yeah, I've dealt with so much pain that I am not afraid of it. I'm very at home with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I have chronic pain. They're short of immediately after a good endorphin rush. I'm always in pain, 24/7.
There you go.
So
yeah.
What's a bit more?
What's a bit more? And look, so yeah, we're here tonight to talk to you and obviously get to know you a bit more because you're representing Queensland in the Australian Chili Championships, which is no easy feat. And then, speaking of pain, right next to you, got a bowl full of what? What do you got there? You just decided to munch while we're talking.
This is a Trinidad Scorpion, this one.
Oh, is that all? What are they average on the Scoville scale, mate?
Oh, 1.2 mil.
1.2. Oh, is that all? Yeah, okay, fair enough. So I'm not eating anything right now because anything I eat compared to Hot Wheels is probably going to be pale in comparison. Because he's a bit of a chili beast, and that's the reason why you're representing Queensland. But look, if you'll indulge us, mate, like you were saying there, you just sort of touched a little bit on what you said that you go through a fair bit of pain. For those that don't know you told me that you actually weren't. You're in a wheelchair, obviously, and thus the whole Hot Wheels title. Are you willing to tell us a bit about, like you said, you weren't born in one though. It's something that's come to pass. You want to tell us a little bit about what happened there, mate? Yeah, obviously, sure. You don't have to tell too much details. Just whatever. Obviously. Give us the rundown of like how that occurred, what happened there.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I was born with a disability, but that certainly didn't put me in a wheelchair. 18 years old, 10 foot tall and bulletproof, and not a lot of brains to match it at that age. And had a moment of stupidity where we were doing some fairly unwise things, and I was the one that ended up worse for wear as a result of it. And broke my neck, and that's left me with quadriplegia. So I don't have.
So you broke your neck, like, and survived that, which is insane. Yeah. Like, you hear people talk about it on the footy, and they've like the Alex McKinnon guy, I think his name was, and he's landed on his neck. But you've like, bang, and you've done this like, of your own accord and whatever. And yeah, obviously not happy with yourself, clearly.
Yeah, well, I landed in a fairly similar position to how Alex McKinnon landed, except he landed on dirt. I landed on concrete. Well,
yeah, right, okay.
So yeah, you can imagine that's not going to do good things for the body.
Yeah, and so you said you walked away with a quadriplegia or something like that. Is there a level? Is there a spectrum with quadriplegia and stuff like that? Like,
yeah, absolutely. So I've got damage to my spinal cord up in my neck between C5 and C6. So basically right near the bottom of your neck. I can't use my legs. I don't have a lot of feeling from kind of mid-chest down. My hands, people have probably noticed that I tend to pinch grip things with my thumbs because my fingers don't open. So I tend to just pinch grip things between.
And then you just fucking smash them in your mouth anyway. You fucking nutball.
Yeah, you know, that hasn't stopped me doing this.
And that's the amazing thing. So like, that's what I was trying to. I didn't want to bring too much of this negative kind of stuff like that up, but like, I want to sort of just ask, like, how did you graduated from that direction of things? How did you get into this? Like, what was your first chili experience? Was it before this thing occurred, like, or somewhere after?
I've been growing chilies for 20 years. Very first chili that I ever grew was a red Savannah habanero when it was the world's hottest chili. Back, I think that was probably about 96, 97.
Right.
I was talking to you the other day, Phil, and I did some off sums, and I've probably eaten somewhere in the order of 50 to 100,000 fresh pods over the last 20 odd years.
Fuck, that is a lot of chili.
So,
but what got into it? What got into it? Like, what was the very first chili experience? What's the first chili experience you can remember?
Look, I even when I was 7 or 8 years old, I used to make Asian stir fries and put bird's eye chilies in it.
Yeah, right.
So I was introduced to spice quite early in life.
Yeah, so started young, obviously.
yeah, it just went from there. Once bird's eyes weren't doing that anymore, I needed something a bit warmer.
They weren't doing it anymore. It's funny. Some people, I try to say the word normal. You are like, what's the word? Not very often, because like, what is normal, right? Especially we're in the chili world and the chili community. Like, what is a version of normal? And like you were saying before, all of us seem to run towards the fire, run towards the pain, which is a bit weird, isn't it? But what's it called? You know, it's so strange that you've obviously not only been introduced to chili early, unlike most people that are in Australia, but you've continued to ramp it up. So, like you've told us you've had this experience really early on. It's got you in a wheelchair, unfortunately, obviously not your choice. And then you've what's it called? Continued to delve into chili. What got you into competition eating, mate? Like, how did you graduate from few stir fries and that kind of stuff to then, like, you know what, I'm going to compete in this kind of stuff. I'm going to delve into this and really grab it by the balls, you know? Like, what's the story with that?
Sure. Well, look, the pandemic hit early 2020, as we know, and for me, that meant very heavy isolation.
Oh, got a few seeds there, mate. Yeah. They're not fun.
Just one or two, yeah.
Few stragglers.
So a lot of the things that I took for granted that kind of made life had to take a back seat. you can't go out with your mates during the pandemic. I couldn't engage in a lot of the clubs and so forth that I was involved in. So my social and civic life kind of took a bit of a backseat, and I needed something to replace that. I was fortunate that I was able to continue working from home, but we all know that work doesn't fulfill all of the social needs.
That's right. Yeah, I totally agree with that, mate.
So I needed something else, and you know, I knew I was already good at eating chilies. I enjoyed it. So I thought, what the hell? There's this League of Fire thing that was at that stage quite new. I think they'd only got started in about 98, 99. 2019, 2018, 2019. So they were quite new. And I was very familiar with YouTube channels like Hot Dang Show, Yourself, Phil, Heat 101. And I thought, well, you know, let's see where this goes. And over about a 3-month period, I went from you know, eating a few habaneros to eating a few ghost peppers to eating a few reapers. And I thought, hang on, well, you know, if I can eat a few reapers, I can do some of these other things that I'm watching other people do.
That's right, because I've seen you've done an absolute beast load amount of challenges, you know, and to like short of your word, you were before Greg, well, this year before Greg broke the world record for most amount of reapers, which is insane in itself. You were number 1 on the League of Fire standings for Australia for quite some time. I think, did you say, was Correct. It nearly 5 years or something, or a number of years?
It's just over a year. So I took it off WA. WA held the.
Was that Demonic Dave? Was it?
It was Demonic Dave. Yeah.
Which is no easy feat. That guy does some pretty crazy shit too. You know, I've seen what he does.
He certainly has. And yeah, I guess he slowed down a little bit with the challenges. Started his job with Gods of Sources, and kind of changed focus in his life a little.
I seen he was on Instagram too. He's called the Wanked Chef or something like that on Instagram. And I'm like, interesting. And he gets drunk and cooks food. I was like, well then, that sounds interesting. I'm like, that's very Demonic Dave. That's very Dave.
Look, it is. But yeah, so I thought, well, there's no one really representing for Australia at the moment. So why not? I don't want Australia to look like the wuss of the world when it comes to chili. So if Dave isn't going to do it, and while we did have other people at the time, none of them were really kind of stepping up to the plate in terms of trying to continue on where Dave had left off. They'd done the odd challenge here and there, but they certainly didn't have that vision to rep for Australia.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, hell, if Dave's not going to do it, I might as well.
Yeah, and like I totally agree with you, mate. And it's funny, like you've gone from like there's been like no one to now there's a national comp. You know, we've got a Australian chili champion. They're facing off against the New Zealand chili champion in September. You know, we stole 2 world records from the Americans in 2 months. You know, it's starting the heat's starting to come on, and we're starting to show the world that Australia actually has some pretty crazy chili talent. You know. But like you said that before, you sort of mentioning a bit of League of Fire. tell us, like, you've been immortalized in they've got these trading cards things, which is pretty cool. You know, if people don't know about that, they've got these League of Fire trading cards. What does it take to like get onto one of these trading cards and be immortalized as a League of Fire champion or a League of Fire legend? Like, you know, what is it that you got to do? And, you know, because it sounds like you've jumped through quite a few hurdles to get there. Like,
look, I certainly did. The general rule of thumb is you've either got to be the top for your country, or you've got to rep in a world comp, or you've got to hold the world record in League of Fire standings. Pretty much everyone that has a League of Fire trading card has done one of those things.
right. Yeah, because like, and what were you going to say, mate?
So no mean feat.
No mean feet. That's right. They're not just handing them out, going, "Oh, here you go." Like you've heard it. You're there for a reason, clearly. Yeah. So it's funny. Like everyone seems to have these negative and positive moments with their chili lives and their chili experiences. Have you got like a best chili experience of like all these challenges and things that you've sort of smashed through? And like, is there one that sort of came out where you just like, oh, or was there like just generally in general, like in your life, have you had like a best chili experience where you just gone, oh mate, that really made it worthwhile or something like that, you know?
In terms of League of Fire, certainly not the most difficult challenge I've ever done, but the one that kind of sticks out is the fact that I still a year and a half since the event, I hold the world record for the most Psycho Bears consumed in one sitting.
Most Psycho Bears consumed in one sitting. How many is that?
It was 6, I believe.
6 Psycho Bears. And are they're the big ones, or they're not the little tiny?
They're the big suckers, yeah.
Yeah, because I heard somebody was trying to they wanted to see if they can attempt to break that record. For people who haven't tried these things, they were trying to explain to us what you go through when you're eating one of these things, and what's the pain, what's the experience like, because obviously it's a record for a reason. Obviously, you know, it doesn't sound like it's something easy to do. Yeah.
For example, the Psycho Bears, or the Rummy Bears for that matter, are incredibly difficult to chew. They're very, very rubbery. The closest thing I can think of to relate it to would be, if you can imagine chewing on old boot leather. It's kind of what it's like.
That's not fun.
And it is piping hot.
Yeah. One of the experiences I had is I had a bear with heaps of extract, and it was like a king bear or something, I don't know. And I remember getting 3/4 of the way through, and then it just hit my guts, and it felt like an explosion in my guts, and these cramps just exploded, and my guts just gone, nope, rejected. And like, how do you when I'm not sure what the feeling was with those ones, but how do you manage and contain a feeling? Oh, you're right. How do you manage and contain a feeling like that? See, just like you just did then, you just you're eating like what are you eating, like scorpions and nagas and things like that? And I'm like, mate, you're just chatting with us, you know?
Chocolate scorpion at the moment. I got through the first 3 of them quite easily, I remember. And then in the burn time after the 3rd one, I started cramping, and I knew from experience that cap cramps are one of those things that good cap cramps are possibly one of the most severe pains that the human body is capable of experiencing. There's plenty of women in the chili world who have had natural childbirth, and they say that their cap cramps are worse.
I do believe there's a quote from Bella from Heat 101, and she said on the Netflix special, We Are the Champions Chili Eating, episode 2, that she had a 38-hour pregnancy with labor pains and that. And she said that the cap cramps that she's received from reapers and things like that are much, much worse. And I was like, that's saying something. That is a statement. 38 hours. And she's like, nah, this is worse. It was like, whoa.
And I know multiple women in the chili world who have said that.
Oh, yeah. And then with somebody's told me that they had the year nah and had 16 hours of cramps from the year nah. And they said that after having children, they're going, that is the worst pain I've ever had in my entire life. And I was like, oh, shit. So you're saying, like, it's true to what you're saying there. It's so true. You know, it's a testament to what the human body can endure.
So, yeah, I tend to, I know that if it's going to be a lengthy challenge, that I probably will cramp during it. I know that an individual wave of cramps probably only lasts about 3 minutes, although it feels like it's going to last 30.
A lifetime.
When you're in the middle of it, it feels like 30 minutes.
Are you just singing in your head that song that goes, it comes and goes in waves? It always does.
No, I'm usually grunting like
I got the Popeye.
I'm normally grunting like some dying animal, but yeah, I know that the cramps are going to come, the cramps are going to go. So I tend to try and just get through the cramps, then make use of the period between the cramps to do whatever I've got to do with that particular challenge, and then if another wave hits, gonna take a short breather and get through the cramps, and then keep going.
Just manage it. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's sort of a strategy that you sort of employ to sort of nudge your way, get a couple of steps, then a couple of steps, then pull back, a couple of steps forward. That's cool. It's interesting. There's an interesting insight into there. So we were just saying about your best chili experience. So I wonder if you can shed light on what's your worst chili experience that you've ever dealt with. I'm sure it might have something to do with pain or maybe even flavor. But what's the worst chili experience you felt you've endured over your competitive career or chili life, you might say?
I'd say it'd have to be the Moab collab that I did.
Moab. So that stands for Mother of All Bars, and it's like a chocolate bar or something, isn't it?
So the Moab collab is done by Old Agnes, the chili brownie company in America, and they produce these half-pound brownies, chocolate brownies.
Half a pound. That's 250 grams in Australia, isn't it?
About that, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of chocolate.
That's a lot of brownie, let me tell you. And these brownies are very, very dense, fudgy consistency. So they glue themselves to every corner of your mouth. It had chunks of the Mother of All Bars chocolate bar in it, and that's quite warm.
Quite warm is one word for it.
And then
did you eat the whole thing? Was that right? You ate the whole thing? Yeah. So 250 grams of chocolate in one sitting. That is a lot of chocolate. That's a lot of dairy.
So you basically have a brownie that is very dense, very like kind of mud cake consistency. About a third of it was chocolate. About a third of it was peanut, like peanut butter.
It sounds tasty, but it sounds like a lot of pain if it's coated. What's it coated? What creates the heat in it?
I think it was mostly reapers. There was probably a bit of extract in there as well. But that went on for about, I think it was 15, 20 minutes. And the
pain or to eat it, consume it?
Just to consume it. And I think I counted that I gagged about 39 times during that.
Yeah, right.
That was
That's a lot. Yeah,
that wasn't fun. No.
because you've done. I think that you've done the Moab. How many Moabs have you done now?
Done 2 Moabs.
And you've done like a Nemesis bar or something as well.
Yeah, 2 Moabs. Chili Cherry Nightmare. I got another one in the fridge that I'll be doing in a couple of weeks. A Nemesis bar that I was lucky enough to do with Roger Trio of Hot Dang Show 10 days ago. Countless Tubes of Terror and Death Nuts 3, Death Nuts 2, Johnny's Hot Balls.
Johnny's Hot Balls.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're not PG. No, I'm just kidding. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. But like, I think you said that there was an extra dimension to having to deal with the bars there as well, because you said that you're not lactose intolerant. You're actually dairy allergic. Is that right?
Correct. So like after the Nemesis, yesterday I reviewed some tincture for Tracy chili here in Australia. That was really the first proper hot thing I'd eaten in about 10 days. Basically, since consuming that Nemesis, because for the first 4 or 5 days afterwards, my guts were so wrecked from dairy.
So tell me, what's the difference? What's the difference between lactose intolerant and lactose or dairy allergic? What's the difference? Like there is a difference. Obviously, most people like lactose intolerant. You think, okay, it goes in and then it comes back out real quickly, or it's either this one or the whole. What is the difference between that and a lactose allergic?
So lactose intolerant. As you said, if it's not real severe, people might get a bit gassy. If it is more severe, then they're going to be finding a bathroom in short order.
Greg was telling me about that after the Australian Chili Championship last year. He's just like, oh, that wasn't fun. But anyway, sorry, keep going.
Dairy allergy tends to be more, depending on its severity. But the easiest way I can describe it would be similar symptoms to someone who is celiac. If a celiac eats something that's got gluten in it, so you typically something that contains wheat or wheat flour, then they may get a rash all over their body. It usually causes swelling to the lining of the gut. And
so you're talking like stomach, intestines, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but basically everything from your bottom of your stomach all the way through to the other end.
Which doesn't sound fun as it is when you're already doing something hot. Yeah,
true.
And it's already going to give you cap cramps.
And you basically stop being able to absorb any nutrients for quite a few days. So
one might imagine, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, certainly some people have it much more severe than that. Like any allergy, things can be severe enough to cause anaphylaxis. Thankfully, that's not the case for me. But I certainly suffer for a good 3, 4, 5 days afterwards when I consumed anything dairy heavy.
So I have to ask now, considering that you knew this in advance, or one would assume that you did, what was going through your brain when you decided to take on these Moab bars and these Nemesis bars, and what was the other one you said with Roger Cherry? What was it?
So the Nemesis
Cherry Nightmare?
No, so the Nemesis was with Roger, and I've also done the Moab and the Chili Cherry Nightmare.
And so what's going through your brain? We were just saying before, like a lot of chili heads, most people run away from fire, and you've run straight back towards it again. You went straight back towards the danger and the pain. What was going through your head to talk yourself into going, you know what, that's going to really suck, but I'm going to do it anyway? How did you reconcile that in your brain and you going, you know what, buddy, we're going to fucking do this anyway? Like, how did you do that? Like, what did you say to yourself?
I guess when I decided that I was going to be a serious representative figure in the League of Fire for Australia, I decided that part of that was to do every League of Fire challenge that I was physically capable of.
Right.
So there are certainly some some League of Fire challenges that I simply cannot do. Bubble Trouble, for example.
Was it Bubble Trouble?
Bubble Trouble, which is a piece of bubble gum that is coated in cap crystals. I have I don't have any stomach muscles. Have a very weak diaphragm, so my lung capacity is really, really low, and that's got to do with having quadriplegia. So while I could certainly chew the bubble gum up and suffer a whole lot, get Aaron. One of the requirements of that challenge is that you blow bubbles with the bubble gum.
Right.
I can't blow the bubbles with the bubble gum, so I can't complete that challenge.
So it's double bubble trouble for you, unfortunately.
Yes. Yes.
Fair enough. So, but what did you say to yourself? So you said to yourself with the chocolate ones, just going, right, I'm going to do this. No excuses. Took your excuses away. I went, stuff it. Going to nail this. I don't care. You know, it's just an obstacle, and just sort of went and smashed it anyway.
I've suffered plenty of times in the past. I know what I'm going to go through, and I just said to myself, this is something, if I'm going to rep for Australia, if I'm going to be that League of Fire figurehead for Australia, whether I am currently the highest ranked in Australia or not, doesn't really matter to me. That's more kind of an added bonus. For me, it's just the fact that I am well known internationally for what I do.
Oh yeah, 100%. Of course you are.
And people respect that. And part of doing things like the Moab, Chili Cherry Nightmare, the Nemesis Bar was just that I didn't want to kind of let the expectation of representing Australia as a kind of figurehead for the League of Fire. I didn't want to disrespect that by saying, well, I'm not going to do that challenge because it's going to be a little uncomfortable for me. No, screw it. If I'm going to rep for Australia, if I'm going to be the figurehead that everyone kind of knows Australia for and the League of Fire, then I'm going to do what I'm physically capable of doing. If I have to suffer a bit, so be it.
100%. And it's funny what you say about that with Australia as well. I think it's funny. A lot of people overseas, especially, think that Australians are just tough bastards anyway, because we're constantly just surrounded by all these crazy animals and creatures. But then you go a step further and you're just smashing the craziest things you can put in your stomach. That being said, like you said, you're aware that there's going to be a small amount of dairy, probably not as much as the Moa bars or the Nemesis bars in the Australian Chili Championships. There will be a bit of a glance of this stuff. You're aware that you're going to go through a hell of a lot of pain. Is that what I'm curious about? Is obviously you've got some support workers that have to work there with you and assist you in some of the things that you need. But do they just think you're a fucking maniac? Like, they think you're absolutely crazy. Like, they're just like, what have you got yourself in for now, Daniel? Like,
some of them do a little bit, yes. But as part of having quadriplegia, I make no bones about the fact that there are a lot of things in life I simply can't do without significant assistance. Everything from getting in and out of bed to.
But what I'm saying is, I'm just saying they must just how do you explain to them? Oh, by the way, I'm going to eat some of the hottest shit in the world today, and you're going to help me out. They're going, wait, what? Like, how do you explain that to someone? Going, yeah, like.
Yeah, look, when I get a new support worker, I explain to them straight up that this is what I do, and this is who I am. Are we going to have issues?
I think you've got to be pretty upfront with them. It's a pretty upfront kind of position, but you got to be even more upfront and go. So, by the way, like you got to say it straight away, don't you? They go, oh, all right then, yeah. And so, like, how do you say to them? Like, how do you explain what you do? Like,
I say, look, I'm a chili head. What does that mean? That means that I am going to eat stupidly hot stuff on the regular basis. That means that if you have issues with chili or anything spicy in general, you will be exposed to it from an environmental perspective. Someone walked into my kitchen a few weeks ago, and they were like, "Oh, Dan, have you had chili again?" Their confidence spluttering, and I'm like, "You know who I am? Do you really want to ask that question?"
You should know better by now. Like, yeah.
Of course, I've had chili.
Sounds like a silly question, doesn't it, mate? Yeah. So, look, you're delving into a little bit about like the League of Fire, and they're a world-encompassing kind of organization now. What's that?
They are, yes.
Yeah, and I think obviously originating from England over there. But they have belts, titles, and their own champs and their own point system. For those that aren't well versed in that, can you explain to us a little bit about like how that works? Because obviously you're no novice to how it works now. Can you tell us a little bit about how that
Sure.
makes sense?
Sure. Well, I guess the League of Fire was born in the late 2018, 2019 era there, because a small group of chili heads over in the UK recognised that we as a community were quite divided into regional pockets. So you had the American chili heads, but they didn't really communicate much with the English chili heads. You had the English chili heads, but they didn't really communicate much with the Australian or the New Zealand chili heads. You had a couple of different groups in Europe, in parts of Europe, and so on. And so they all had their own competitions and ways of establishing a pecking order, if you will. But none of them kind of knew how to compare their top dog against the top dog down the road in a different league. And the League of Fire, while it's certainly not the only ranking system out there, it was born to try and be kind of agnostic of where you are or what you've done, and find a common way of establishing who's who and who deserves to be able to talk smack about who else.
So sort of like a unit, like you're saying, a universal ranking system. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Regardless of location and gender and all those things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's lots of different challenges. Everything from eating fresh frogs to competing in chili competitions at festivals, to lots of sauce chug competitions, to various different solid food challenges. and they all establish different points that are added to your tally, and in short, the person with the most points sits on top.
There you go, mate. And so, obviously, there's a few chili heads in Australia. Like, how consistent do you have to be to get to the top of a country's ladder? Like, it sounds like what you have to do is no easy feat either.
Yeah, well, look at it. From when I joined the League of Fire, which my first challenge was a Chuck V2 that I did around about, I want to say, June or July of 2020. It took me about a year and a half to climb the ladder and finally get past Demonic Dave. He'd certainly done, to his credit, he'd certainly done quite a few challenges when he was more active in that space. But once I got past Dave, I realised, all right, I am now
The top dog.
The top dog. So that kind of comes with a bit of a expectation or a bit of a that there was almost kind of, I felt a weight on my shoulders because I was now
Heavy wears the crown.
Kind of, I was as good as Australia got. So if I didn't pull my weight, that looked bad for the whole country.
Fair enough.
I was going to have that. So that was when I really stepped up my game and started doing a lot more challenges than I did a month of challenges in August last year. Where I think it was about 17 challenges in the month.
17.
17.
Yeah.
I did November last year where I did 22 challenges in a month.
Yeah, that's pretty hardcore.
And between now and the Australian Chili Championship on the 13th of August, I've got a crazy amount of challenges.
So you're building up. You're building the tolerance up. Well, you're right. Build the tolerance up, and obviously conditioning the stomach, the guts, and everything for all to try and prepare yourself, because you know that's gonna. It's quite unlike anything. Like, have you ever seen a competition that's anything like the Australian Chili Championships?
No. Look, we were talking before this stream went live, and probably one of the most extreme chili championships anywhere in the world is there's probably two of them. The one in New Zealand is world regarded as one of the most extreme, and there's one in England and one in the US that are held every 2 or 3 years. And they're pretty bonkers, but ours, what we're doing now on a yearly basis may very well be the most extreme chili championship anywhere in the world, largely because it's not just a chili championship. This is a championship that tests heat, endurance, capacity, ability to deal with really nasty taste and stuff. Definitely going to test the gag reflex. I'm not aware of any other comp anywhere in the world that does that in such a rounded fashion.
Yeah, well, that was and like you just said there, you've named a few competitions, and I've seen a lot of them, and I've tailored mine and this Australian Chili Championship in that kind of way, in respect to these competitions, and going, okay, how can we work upon that kind of foundation? But then at the same time, I've seen so many legends where they are absolute beasts at pods, and then I've seen so many legends where they're absolute beasts at products, and going, but what would we imagine if we created a competition which created the most well-rounded chili head in the world who could just take on anyone and just at a moment's notice just be like savage, and last year I think we found that, and so anyone going into the competition this year has to try and face that person, and we all know them as Greg Iron Guts Barlow, which is a uniquely crazy individual. As you know, you've got to be a certain level of crazy to take that on, so I know you. You're, like you just said, you're a certain level of crazy. You run towards fire. You run towards danger. Like you're saying there, it's unique how far and how much that they have to go through the New Zealand Championship and the American ones and those European ones. And that's what I created here. It was like you're just touching on there was something where it's going to test people in every single direction. Like you said, you test your gag reflexes, test your senses of your taste, your smell, where I'm throwing absolutely horrible things in your guys' throats. And you're just like, I hate you, Phil, so much. But at least I earned that hatred for a good reason, because, the people that will come through the flames of that fire of being, they say fire forges the most strongest warriors and competitors. My only hope is that the Australian Chili Championship forges the strongest chili champions and absolute beasts to go forth into the world and try and take on the rest of the world on behalf of Australia, like you're saying there, and not have this power vacuum in Australia. Instead, do the opposite and, send them forth, and have this absolute benchmark. And I feel like we've kind of achieved that in the first one. And so it's sort of interesting to see who decides or has the balls, or even lady balls, doesn't matter if you're man or woman, if you've got balls or not, the guts to absolutely challenge someone who's willing to put themselves through that kind of pain, And it's amazing that the people that have come forth this year as well as last year to rise to the challenge. So I really appreciate that too.
Yeah, no, look, we've certainly got a great and very diverse set of competitors this year, and I'm certainly honoured to be amongst them. And I guess I have to consider for a moment that one, yes, it's a personal achievement for me to rep for my state in the Australian Chili Championship, and something that I would have quite happily done last year, but because of the uncertainties of the pandemic, I didn't want to enter into something that I may not have been able to compete in due to the restrictions that were upon me at the time. But
100%, because like you said, COVID's been an absolute burden on everyone in all walks of life, and that was where this was created. Was we were going to create something that would work in spite of COVID. In spite of these kind of adversities in life, and it's so frustrating. I've seen so many chili festivals and chili competitions and events being cancelled one after the other because of this kind of thing. And I sort of wanted to try and COVID-proof this competition if possible, which sounded like something ridiculous. People going, yeah, righto. But then it worked, and amazingly it worked. And I'm so proud to be able to stream it to the world and show people what Australia has, what Australia's got, in the likes of chili talent, and I'm so proud of you and all the other champions this year that have stepped up to the plate, despite their own adversities and whatever's going on in their lives and COVID and like that, and obviously representing their location and their country the best they can too.
Yeah, and I guess talking about that COVID proofing, one of the things that you've had
fingers crossed, don't jinx it.
That's it. But one of those things you've had to do to kind of increase the resilience of the competition to be able to continue no matter what is the fact that we use candied pods during the competition. Yeah. And
to arrive at the decision required a lot of back and forth. I have no idea. The conversations are going, now how do we do this? And they're going, okay, we do this. I'm like, and how much does that cost? Like, yeah, okay, back to the drawing board. And how do we do this? And how much does that cost? Okay, back to the drawing board. This is like, not a millionaire. How do we do this? That much. How much does it cost? Back to the drawing board. Like, so everything, every single product, every single thing, every single aspect of this competition has been so thought out and like to the extreme. And like, it's so funny. People go, oh yeah, it must be fun organizing an event. I'm like, it's pretty stressful.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and so people go, oh, why don't you have like more people? And then I'm like, oh man. Like if you try to do this with 30 people, it would be extremely hard to do.
Oh, look, absolutely. And I mean, I don't think there'd be a single competitor in the competition last year or this year that would argue that we wouldn't be better off if we had access to fresh pots. Of course we would. That's obvious.
Yeah,
but I don't know anyone from a logistical standpoint that would stand up and say, sure, I will source all the fresh pots, and then I will pay the hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to overnight fresh pots to the far reaches of the continent 2 or 3 days prior to the competition. While it would be lovely to have access to fresh pots, and I know that New Zealand, for example, they did a chili championship back in 2020, locked at home, and they did mail fresh pods all around the country. But they're also a lot smaller island than we are.
Yeah, very true.
You know,
very
so
true.
they don't have quite
sixth biggest country in the world.
Yeah. So we've got the geographical constraints as well. But yeah, I guess talking about the diversity of the comp this year, one of the things that a lot of people, I guess, may not necessarily consider, but something that is I'm very aware of, and I know you are too, Phil, is that unfortunately, people with disabilities are often very underrepresented in the community
Or overlooked.
Yeah. Whether it's from unemployment, the employment figures, and I won't get into underemployment because we know that there's a lot of people that are working, that are gainfully employed, but they're not taking home enough money at the end of the week.
Yeah, which is a solid point. No one should be like wanting for being able to pay the bills or wanting for being able to have enough food or
absolutely not
to be able to pay everything on time. Like that should be a given with the job. You shouldn't be wanting for anything.
And that's another problem related to modern society.
Totally agree.
But when you look at the employment figures, you've got something like 95% of adult Australians that do not have a disability either have part-time, permanent, or casual work where they are gainfully employed. If you look at people with disabilities, it's about 53%. When you take away what is the single largest employer of people with disabilities, known as Australian Disability Enterprises, where people can earn as little as about $2 an hour, $2.50 an hour, which is that's slave labour. I'm sorry to call it.
I agree,
labor, but that's slave labour.
That's insane.
That doesn't deserve to exist, and it's a blight on our governments that does exist.
Oh yeah.
But when you take that away and you look at mainstream employment across casual, part-time, and full-time, there's only about 15% of people with disabilities in Australia that are gainfully employed in a mainstream capacity. And
that's
really
pretty insane, because like what you're saying with a statistic there, and I believe I read a statistic somewhere saying that actually like 1 in 6 Australians have a disability, so it's not a small population. It is a huge 1 in 6 out of 26 million is a lot. That's a lot.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, and that figure, that percentage really hasn't changed in 20 years.
Yeah.
So our governments really do need to step up and do something to enable that to change, because I can assure you that it's not that people with disabilities don't wish to work. It's that those opportunities aren't afforded to them in very many cases. And underrepresentation in other walks of life often then stem from the fact that a lot of people with disabilities are living on or below the poverty line. Again, facts of life.
100%.
If you don't have money to put food on the table or pay your electricity bill, you're probably not particularly being worried about what else you can do in life.
Yeah, we just say any chili. Do you want to just show them the bowl that you're still munching on the bowl?
Yeah, still munching.
Yeah. How many you got left? So what do you got left? What do we got left to eat?
Is a Reaper.
Yeah. Oh, you're fucking nuts. Still can't believe. Yeah. He goes bang Reaper. Yeah. Like yeah. But like I totally agree with what you're saying there. Like it's a bit frustrating that like we seem to be a lot more of an ableist society. We focus on the people that can do the most in society and what to their needs. And it's a bit frustrating, like even just walking around in Sydney and there's stairs everywhere, you know, and there's not enough elevators, there's not ramps and things, there's not locations where they are in the mind of a person with a wheelchair or that are disabled or that have not got the ability to walk or move in a way that they are able to. You know, which is it's really unfortunate that you think that it's one of the biggest, if not the biggest cities in Australia, and it just doesn't seem to have that in mind. It was just sort of like build it, make it work, and that's good enough. And I'm sure there's a lot of places in the world where they've got the same kind of issue, you know, and you're just like, what's the deal with that? You know, like, you know.
Well, I mean, I've got a mate. He's in a wheelchair. He's got multiple sclerosis, and he went to a little tiny township in nowhere, New Zealand, back in early 2018, I believe it was, and he was very surprised to find that every storefront in this little tiny town that only has a few hundred occupants had a ramp into the front door. And he said, "Did you do this, mate?" No. The government did this for us. You know, they wanted to make sure that everyone in the community, whether you were in a wheelchair or were a mother using a pram or didn't matter, they wanted to make sure that everyone in the community had access to everything.
That's right, and look, it makes sense. Like we were just saying before about like with things like, and we're going to get off this train of thought soon, guys. But like, just wanted to mention something. Like, you know, like people are struggling, like you said, for jobs. People are struggling. It's COVID, economy, right? Like, just something off the basis of if you went in every capital city in Australia or even the world, go cool. Let's get contracts for people to make ramps in every major location at the very least, right? You create jobs, you create work. Those people then spend money, which injects money into and stimulates the economy, which creates growth, right? You're creating more jobs for people. You know, it makes sense. And I'm just like, like, why doesn't the government see that as a benefit, not a thing? So anyway, I suppose that's the last thing I want to say. Do you want to say anything about that? Like,
no, look, I'll just agree that whether it's ramps or very many other things that can create artificial access barriers to parts of ordinary life, Australia, unfortunately, still has quite a ways to go.
Yeah, totally agree.
And that's part of one of the big reasons why people with disabilities are underrepresented in lots of things, including the chili world. Even talking to you, Phil, you know, the winner of this comp is going over to New Zealand. the average adult able-bodied person can probably get a return ticket to New Zealand for, I don't know, $700 or $800.
Yeah, that's about roughly, yeah. Yep.
Cost me about $4,000 just for flights. So yeah, there are lots of barriers that people don't necessarily consider.
Yeah, and like $4,000 isn't anything to sneeze at. Like, you know, for the average human being, $4,000 is a fair whack of money. You know, like that's you know, that pays your bills. That you know, so that's must be incredibly frustrating. So you know, I totally feel for you in that, and anyone that has to deal with that kind of stuff. And that was like there was a article on the news about how that lady with Jetstar or something, and she couldn't get on the flight, and they go, oh, well, you can get on the flight as long as you take your wheelchair, and she's like, yeah, how about I take your legs off you, man? And they're like, are you being rude? And I'm like, dude, you were being rude to her. Come on, my man, that is wild, you know. And it's just frustrating, like you said, it is just not those options that are enabled for you and for any other people with disability, and that's just so infuriating that we haven't thought of that we've been so blind to people where, you know, you just want to live your normal life and just go out and be a normal person, and then you get all these bloody roadblocks and you're just like, come on, for real, we're in the 21st century now. Why can we think of this stuff now? You know, it's a bit silly. Yeah. All right, mate. Well,
but look, I know that your time's valuable, and we're coming up to the 1 hour mark, but I will say before I leave it to you to cover anything that you may want to cover before we wrap up. I will say that in the next month, prior to the competition, I'll be doing, let's see, we've got three chunk V4s, so that's a source challenge. 5 scalable slammers, so again, another source challenge. 2 tubes of terror. A Death Nuts 3. The Pure Insanity challenge from Gemmelstad's, and the Four Horsemen from Gemmelstad's, which is probably the hottest natural chili challenge anywhere in the world.
It sounds like it. What was it? Just how many did you say was Reapers were in each little thing? Is a skull?
So they're 4 little tiny chocolate skulls, and they're really quite small. I've got them sitting in the fridge, so they don't melt. And each of these 4 chocolate skulls contains the equivalent of 16 Reapers worth of chili powder.
Each.
So
16 Reapers in each skull. So 64 in what?
In 64 across 4 skulls, yes.
Far out, that is insanity. But anyway, look, I wasn't trying to move on quickly and not trying to end this at all. No. All I was saying was we were deviating a bit off the chili path. That's all. I was trying to move back into the chili thing, and I could gladly talk to you about this access stuff all day. But obviously, we're a chili channel, so I guess we should probably talk about chili. But look, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was like you said, you've done all this stuff and you're preparing for the Australian Chili Championships. But before you did training and prep like that, talk us through what's like a normal day that you would do before competitions, before the Australian Chili Championships? What's something that you would normally do in comparison to what you're doing now?
Well, I guess prior to the pandemic, I was very active in my local community. I sat on a number of council boards. I work in the systemic disability advocacy space. So I'm the kind of person that's seen as a bit of a policy expert. So whether it's local council or state government or federal government, I was always engaging with different branches of government or different government departments around various policy that they either had developed or were in the process of developing. a lot of that has changed since COVID because obviously the focus of pretty much all levels of government for 2 years was on the pandemic, and everything else took a backseat.
Yeah.
But very involved with local. I was involved in my local woodturners group prior to COVID. One of my kind of pastimes, that one of my hobbies that I did just almost as a mental health break was that once or twice a year I would restore an antique piece of furniture.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
And I'm probably one of the few people in North Queensland who had been taught the authentic methods of how to do that
Wow.
in a period correct way, so
Yeah.
as not to devalue a piece.
I have to give you a lot of kudos for that, man. That sounds like there's some real patience in that. I'm not, let's say, the most patient person in the world, so I don't think I'm like, okay, I'm bored with this. Like, it sounds like you've put a lot of effort and energy and patience into creating that skill as well with the woodwork and
you
that.
have to be willing to kind of get lost in something a little bit and
Oh yeah,
accept that it's not about how quick you can get it done. It'll take however long it takes. It's the end result that's actually important for things like that, because you might be dealing with, for example, a table that was made in the 1700s. One wrong move and you've turned it into something that's about as valuable as what you get from IKEA.
Oh, so yeah, you're like working with things that are sort of like Mona Lisa level, going, don't wreck this, don't scratch this, it'll devalue it by like a fucking million. Shit, that's pretty wild, man. Well, look, I guess we'll better delve back into what we were talking about. So now you're talking about training and prep and conditioning and stuff like that for the Australian Chili Championships. You know, what dare I ask? What the hell do you put in your body to train for something so crazy and so insane? And like obviously there must be a certain level of training that you've had to do for your challenges normally. But then what you've told me is that you've ramped it up for this competition for the Australian Championship. You've ramped it up. So tell me, what is the prep like and training and conditioning like for normal challenges versus this Australian Chili Championship? Like, what the hell do you do to prepare for that?
Well, look, in a normal Australian winter, which is kind of when the majority of the pubs are available, at least in.
Don't you live in Townsville? What's winter over there? Do you even have a winter? Like,
not really. No,
it's bloody hot up there all year round, isn't it?
Well, we're having one this year, but not normally. No, but normally from about May.
Just say for the guys that aren't from Australia, right? Townsville's really high up in Australia, and it's close to the equator. And the only places that seem to be closer to the equator are Cairns and the tip of like Queensland. So Townsville gets pretty bloody hot and pretty bloody warm, and it's not very often that it gets cold there. So there's no such thing as a winter or white winter there. It doesn't occur. It doesn't happen. There's no snow. And like, have you ever seen frost in Townsville? Like,
no, not in Townsville.
No, didn't think so.
I think the coldest it's ever been in my lifetime in Townsville was 3 or 4 degrees, and that was about 3 or 4 in the morning. We've had hail. We've had
ridiculous o'clock.
Yeah, we've had hail twice in my lifetime. But that's the closest to cold stuff falling from the sky.
Yeah, because it's sort of like the opposite of Game of Thrones. Like, winter is coming, brace yourselves, and it's like in North Queensland, summer is coming, brace yourselves. Ah, here comes the fire! It's fucking hot. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it's in a typical year. It's nothing to think that we're going to have 3 or 4 months straight with no rain, 40 degrees for probably 40 plus degrees for probably 6 or 8 weeks straight. It's pretty punishing, yeah. And for people in the US, I think that's about 125, 130 Fahrenheit.
Yeah, it's pretty bloody hot is the answer.
For 6 or 8 weeks straight. 80% humidity for pretty much that whole time. It's that kind of heat.
For sure.
The humidity that
the humidity bleeds it. It's you sweat, and it's not that normal sweat where it's like watery. It's like thick, and it just comes out of you. And you like walk out of the house, and you're out of the air conditioning for like half a second. It goes, bleh. It's like you're slapped with your own sweat. You're like, oh, okay, it's so fucking hot.
If you're somewhere in North Queensland in the summer months and you don't have aircon, it's almost kind of difficult to dry yourself off after a shower, because as quick as you're drying yourself off, more sweat's appearing. Yeah. So it's like,
and then you look at extra level of crazy while you just fucking munch pods anyway, you fucking maniac. Like, like I still can't get my head around it. You're like, you know what? I'm not sweaty enough. I'm going to eat something crazy, chili, spicy. Like, do you ever even have taste buds anymore? Like, I don't see you registering any of this pain or this heat anymore. You had a Reaper before, and you're like, meh. Like,
yeah, the first probably like 3 you eat. Well, for me, they're a little bit warm, but after that, it's just more of the same.
So tell me. Reminding you what we asked before. So, what are you doing for training before, and what are you doing for training now for the Australian Chili Championship to get prep and training and conditioning?
Prior to preparing for the Australian Chili Championship, I most of the time tried to do about 4 challenges a month. So that averaged out to about 1 a week.
Once a week,
Now, there were plenty of times where that ended up being 4 challenges in a week and not much else for the rest of the month. But I would I eat a lot of chili in my national diet, whether it is chili powder, fresh chilies, dried chilies, just right here. They're all chili pods.
Are they Reapers as well?
Reapers and Moringa scorpions.
Right.
So, I just keep that next to the stove and use it when I'm cooking. Very rarely do I have a lunch or a dinner where it's not fairly heavily chili laden. And I've done many a challenge where I've commented that wasn't too bad. My dinner was spicier than the challenge was.
Oh, shit. That is a worry, mate. That's a worry that your dinner is spicier than normal challenges. Far out.
So that's how I kind of maintained my tolerance normally. When I knew that I had this comp coming up, I knew that it was going to take an extra effort. I'm fortunate that while they don't wish to be named, and I'll certainly respect that, I'm very fortunate that I've got a few benefactors that sit in the background and supply me with a lot of the challenges that I do. I wouldn't be able to do what I do without that. A lot of the chili challenges are very expensive.
Totally. Yeah.
If I look at all the challenges that I've done over the last 2.5 years, we're probably talking somewhere on the order of $5,000.
Yeah, right.
And that's a fair bit of expendable income for anyone.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know, that's a darn good holiday.
Yeah, you're not
Yeah,
wrong.
you know, that's a really, really good holiday. So I'm fortunate that I've got a few people in the background that are willing to put their money where their mouth is and help support me in that manner. And I knew that every time that I've done a real heavy run of challenges, so whether it was August last year or November last year, my tolerance was very, very high at the end of it. And I'd been saving, League of Fire sent me the Nemesis bar back in November or December last year. And so I'd been saving that for a special occasion. And so when I knew that I was competing in the Australian Chili Championship, I knew that the Nemesis bar was significant for a couple of reasons. One, because it was the hottest challenge that I had on hand at the time, but also completing the Nemesis bar challenge unlocked the Gemelstad challenges, that four horsemen that we spoke about earlier. I made sure that I did quite a lot of challenges. They're all over YouTube. They're all over Facebook that I've done in the last month and a half preparing for the Nemesis file. And as soon as I've done that, Ulrika from Gemelstads in Sweden then sent me the four horsemen that I'll be doing the week before the competition.
Yeah. It just must be funny. People ask you about the Nemesis bar. You go, "What's that?" You go, "Oh, that's a very special occasion. The precious." Like, people are like, what? Like, the people must be so confused about things like that. Like, oh no, that's a special occasion.
I mean, I did the Nemesis bar with Roger Trier, who on that show. He was the mastermind behind the Nemesis bar, and I think while he had only known me for about 10 days prior to doing the Nemesis bar with him, and I don't think he was quite aware of how involved in the chili community I have been over the last couple of years.
Did you go, "Do you know him?" No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
And yeah, he was probably a little bit surprised that I barely broke a sweat for most of.
Yeah, you do blow me away. You do blow me away with just what you're eating tonight. You're just going, "Oh yeah, this is a Reaper, and then this is this," and I'm like, dude, like, I can't see you sweating right now. Like, what are you eating now? Is that a yellow Reaper?
Yellow Reaper. Yeah.
They're the same heat, aren't they? These Reapers, they just taste a bit better, don't they?
Yeah. So the yellow Reapers are about 5% lower in SHU, but you're talking about 1.5 versus 1.6 million, basically.
There you go.
It really doesn't make much difference.
Doesn't sound like it.
The absolute hottest Reapers you'll ever get your hands on are about 2.2 million. But they're really exceptional and quite rare because they've got to have the perfect growing conditions, the perfect shipping conditions. You've got to pick them exactly at the right stage of ripeness. Most
and then eat them while they're ripe as well.
That's right. So most Reapers are around the 1.6 mil. The yellow ones are only about 50 or 75,000 SHU lower than that, which when you're talking 1.5 million, it ain't
Not
much.
No.
But they taste so much nicer. They still smell like a Reaper. They've still got a very, very pungent aroma, but they taste so much nicer.
Yeah, right. Okay. And so you said that, what are you doing to prep and train for the Australian Chili Championships? How have you wrapped it up? So you're doing challenges now as training, basically.
Yeah, well, I've got about 200 fresh pods. I've got about 90 in the fridge at the moment, and another just over 100 that'll be coming in about 3 weeks' time.
Jesus.
I've got a huge number of challenges that I'll be doing over the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks. But yeah, just to give people some idea of how I am ramping it up, the Nemesis bar that I did about 10 days ago, that contains the equivalent of 30 Carolina Reapers worth of powder. The Four Horsemen that I'm doing the week before the challenge contains the equivalent of 64 Reapers worth of powder.
And you're doing that as training for the comp. 64 Reapers, far out.
I've also got a whole bunch of tincture, which I've added cap crystals to.
Yeah.
And you know just how punishingly hot cap crystals are. So
combining it with tincture would just step it up a notch. Far out.
Yeah, the rough mathematics is that the tincture that I'm training with is somewhere between 3 and 4 million SHU. So about twice as hot, 3 times as hot as a Reaper.
Yeah. Bloody oath. All right, mate. So look, one thing I do want to talk to you about is like you've got a lot of experience with pods. You've got a lot of experience with products. Have you ever picked a favorite? Have you ever picked like, is it more enjoyable for you to munch on pods, or is it more enjoyable for you to delve into products, or is there some sort of happy medium that you find yourself in that you seem to gravitate towards more, or and does which one do you feel probably is better for like training and stuff? Yeah. So that's a big question.
I mean, I could happily eat pods any day of the week. I won't necessarily gravitate towards the world's hottest pods because they tend to have all fairly funky flavors. But something like a lemon pod, yellow party, something like that. That's still very hot, still on the order of 1 million SHU, but it's got a really nice fruity flavor. I'll happily eat that any day of the week. In terms of challenges, I don't really have a favorite, to be honest. I'll happily do pretty much any solid challenge. I'm not a massive fan of sauces, but that again is more to do with my physical limitations.
I'm only laughing. I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing at something you mentioned, that there's a fair whack of sauces that you guys have shot in the Australian Chili Championship. And has that got you worried?
I believe there's something on the order of 12 liquid rounds, and part of quadriplegia is that I don't have a lot of muscles from basically here down. So you drink a glass of water and it hits your stomach 3 seconds later. I drink a glass of water or a shot of sauce and it might take 15 to 30 seconds to get down there. When I start having to have 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 shots of liquid, I need solid stuff to go in between them to help push it all down.
Luckily, we've got a lot of solid stuff in between each one. I don't know whether you'll enjoy them or not, though.
I do appreciate that much.
Well, I haven't just done it for you as well. I've done it to punish everyone at the same time, so everybody gets punished, not just by liquids but by solids too. So, buddy, look, have you got any thoughts on this competition and your mindset going into this? Like, you've been talking a lot of smack in the group chat, which I thoroughly encourage as well. I want everyone to be as competitive as possible. As long as no one's being prejudiced against each other, I encourage everyone to be as competitive as possible towards each other, and that's completely fine. But you seem to have a very strong will and mindset about you. What you explained before about yourself and what you're about to go through, like how do you cultivate a strong mindset going into competition such as this? Like you said, it's nothing else that you've ever seen before. And what does that that mindset strategy that you are thinking about going into that competition? What are you going to think when you're doing those rounds? Can you talk us through that at all?
Look, I guess for some people when they go into a group competition like that, they use the energy in the room to push themselves a little bit harder.
Whereas this is uniquely devoid of that, isn't it?
I never really do that. I've never really done that. If I look at pre-COVID, and indeed to way back even before I broke my neck, I was a competitive swimmer. I did long distance swimming, and anyone who's done long distance swimming knows that that's more about competing against yourself.
Oh, it's a lot in the mind. You're a lot in your head, aren't you?
When you're swimming a kilometre or more, non-stop, that's less about what the guy in the next lane's doing and more about what's going on in your own head. I was being fast-tracked for the Olympics for powerlifting. Again, yes, you have competitors, but you're not really competing against your fellow competitors. You're competing against your own limitations.
Yeah, mindset too. Yeah, that's right.
A lot of the things that I've done in life are about pushing my own limits, and so I approach this from the same standpoint. That I'm not about to kind of be particularly worried where someone else is. I'm just worried about where I am, and pushing myself to as far as I can go.
Yeah, right. That makes sense. Yeah. And so what do you think is the mindset that you are going to use in the competition that's going to help you get over the line further or push you further? What do you think? What is it that's going to go through your mind that's going to go, right, I'm not going to stop,
Yeah, sure. Look, I mean, I probably feel the same way as Johnny Scoville has mentioned. He's felt in a lot of competitive chili eating competitions. Both I and Johnny Scoville had a look at Greg Barlow's fairly recent Reaper record. Neither of us, we both are in complete agreement. Neither of us could eat 160 Reapers.
It's a small room with filled with the people that can do that kind of stuff, mate. Yeah.
Neither of us could eat 160 grapes. It's not a heat thing for us.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
For me and for Johnny, for that matter, it's not a heat thing. It's a capacity thing. My heat got to a 3 when I was about 2 chilies in, and then
three out of what?
Out of 10. And then came down to a 2 and has sat at a 2 for the rest of our hour and a half long interview. And I'm just continuing to munch chilies, and they barely bump my needle at this stage. But it definitely all adds up capacity wise. I suspect that it will be a liquid challenge that is my undoing. That's just the harsh realities of my physical limitations. But I will certainly push as much as I reasonably can. I'd like to try and avoid going to the hospital afterward, because that is the realistic outcome when I boot. I normally end up at the hospital afterward because, again, not having those stomach muscles and stuff like that, anything that wants out tends to have difficulties getting all the way out, and so it tends to want to stick around your throat level, and then there's a lot of risk around breathing it into your lungs.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, of course.
then you
That's
can
not
suck it
something you
down.
want to go on your lungs, as we saw that guy. He
Yeah,
smoked
really not. Really not.
the Reaper bong, and I'm like, yeah, and that proves to you that you probably shouldn't try that on folks at home, children. Like, so obviously, yeah, I wouldn't want to have that feeling.
Anything going in your lungs except air is usually not a good idea. Something like chili going into your lungs, all that much the worse. I will certainly try and stop prior to getting to the point where I poop.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just hopeful that enough of my competition has dropped out of the race by that point that I end up in good standings.
Well,
But
there'll be no wishful thinking of the comp. It's just going to be what it is, and I think you know that, and I think that's why you're smart. You got a personal standby as well in case you do need to go to hospital. Unfortunately, I hope that doesn't come to that, but you obviously you're well aware of what's at stake, but at the same time you're well aware of what could happen too as well. So you're not silly.
Absolutely. I mean, any time that I do anything challenge related, I always have someone standing off camera that can assist me should I need it.
And that's something I explained to all the other guys as well. Everyone will be having someone off camera that has the ability to call 000 in case, we hope that doesn't occur and that doesn't happen or go to that, but everyone will have that in place just in case, and it stipulates that in the rules because we know what we're doing is crazy and we are all trained professional idiots. So
I think I can definitely say that I have taken on that title many a time, Phil.
me and you both, mate.
Absolutely. I'm all about people having fun and testing their limits, but at least do it safely. There are ways and means of doing things safely, and that's one of those things you can put in place quite easily.
That's right. And I think one of the things that you said that you touched on as well is that it's good to have a competition where people can compete at their best at these peak levels, and that was the other thing I was really pleased to create in this competition is to have something for Australians to compete in the top tier level, like I said, because one thing I do want chili eating to be recognized that it is a sport. It requires training. It requires conditioning. It requires, for the majority of us, except for some people like bloody Greg Barlow, who's just, let's say, naturally talented or naturally skilled, that, there's always going to be one person that just goes, just sort of walks in and goes, yeah, righto. But, but obviously for the rest of us, we've got to try and do things the hard way, and I feel that this competition was to try and recognize those people's efforts and give them an avenue for where they can all compete in and, at the very least have some fun, be at the top tier, and be recognized as well as obviously showing what kind of talent and skills that Australia's got in the chili industry and competitions as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, Phil. I mean, for me personally, my journey towards the competition in August, I kind of got to a milestone about a month ago where I just stopped getting cap cramps.
Shit, that's dangerous. That sounds like a dangerous thing to go into a competition. People are like, I don't get cap cramps. People go, shit.
My guts just got to the point where they'd seen so much capsaicin that they're like, oh yeah, a bit more of that, oh well.
Oh no. So it sounds like you're a bit of a genuine threat, mate. It sounds like you're a genuine threat. Have you got anything to say or any thoughts that you want to say and voice towards Greg Barlow, mate? Obviously,
Greg's a hell of a competitor, and I'm sure that everyone will push themselves to do their level best on the night. I'm really looking forward to. So we've got a League of Fire belt match with Shen and the European Championship in the next day or two. Then after that occurs, the League of Fire going. I don't know if people have seen, but leading up to the American belt match, League of Fire helped disseminate a lot of the smack talk for the Americans. They've now, in the last couple of weeks, been disseminating the smack talk around this belt match. Once this belt match is done, they're going to start help disseminating the smack talk around our comp. So I'm looking forward to seeing, once everyone starts taking it public, what that smack talk looks like.
Fair enough, mate. And so, look, obviously, you're a thorough professional competitor. You've been in the chili industry and competing for such a long time. Have you got any advice to people that are looking to compete in chili competitions, who are looking to attempt some of the things you're doing, and any advice that for future competitors for the Australian Chili Championship, mate? What advice would you bestow on these people in those kind of circumstances, and people that are looking to try and do or attempt the things that you've done?
Look, I'd say know your limits. If your limits are not where you'd like them to be, train hard. Do it safely, but train hard. I'm not naturally gifted in having that unique little trait where some people have that bent where there's a so-called fine line between pleasure and pain. I don't have that. Pain is just pain for me.
I've heard that, Dan. I heard people go, "Oh, they go numb," and I'm like, "Who are these people? I don't get numb. What? I don't get numb. I've never had that. I'm like, oh, I would like that sometimes, but no, it doesn't happen for me.
I can burn for 2 or 3 hours and I don't get numb. No.
Insanity rules, says Jose.
So have fun. Realize that that's why we do this, is because it's fun and it's about testing our own limits and do it safely. But yeah, don't let someone else stop you from achieving what you want to achieve in life. And I think that applies for whether it's the chili world or anything else.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's good advice. Don't let other people dictate what you can and can't do in your life. Just go out and do it. If you're passionate, and if you want to be part of something, don't let, I think I said this to you before, don't let, whether you're male, female, trans, LGBTQ, black, white, or green, if you're passionate about something, go and do it. Go be part of what you want to do. Do what you want to do in your life and live your own life. So look, the last thing I want to ask you is, we know obviously that in the near future you've got the Australian Chili Championship coming up in August 13th at 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. But what's in the future for Hot Wheelz? What is Hot Wheelz attempting? What is your goals and your aspirations towards your chili life, chili career in the future for Hot Wheelz?
Look, I honestly don't know. After the Australian Chili Championship, I'm probably going to take a little bit of a break after that.
So just step 1, survive. Step 2, take a break. Fair enough.
I'm hoping that I will get to a point sometime either late this year or early next where I'm not as isolated from the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then what I'd really like to do is be able to compete in some of the in-person chili festival competitions. They may not be at the same level as something like the Australian Chili Championship, but just to be able to be there with a whole bunch of chili heads in the same physical space,
100%.
would be a really nice thing, and something that I haven't been able to do for the last few years.
And that's something that's where we're looking forward to as well. We're aiming, hopefully, when COVID and all this pandemic and stuff and blah, blah, blah is over, that we can actually have a physical location as well. We're going to leave it as COVID-proof for now, COVID-proof for now, obviously, while things are the way they are. But, and obviously, if we do have a physical location, we'll film it as well, and we will stream it to the rest of the world so that nobody gets to miss out, because who wants to miss out on this crazy competition and seeing the amazing competitors run through the most wildest gauntlet that people have ever seen. We want to bring it to the world, mate, and we love that you and our other amazing competitors are willing to go through that crazy gauntlet for not just entertainment, but obviously for, a heck of a title and the honor and the respect of the chili community to be able to do some amazing stuff, mate. Yeah.
Cheers, dude. I appreciate it.
That's right. So what do you got left of that bowl, mate? Are you wanting to eat the rest now, or?
I've only got scraps left in the bowl now, mate.
Fair enough. That's all good, buddy. Well, look, matey, I guess we'll be able to make a move in a second, but is there anything else you wanted to say to any shout-outs you want to say to all the legends out there in the chili world, and leave a good, what's it called, note or something that you wanted to say to anyone?
No, look, to be honest, I'm not one to kind of throw the gauntlet down to people.
Are you sure about that? I've been reading your messages, mate.
I do things publicly, mate. My record stands. Everyone can see what I'm up to.
Yep.
I don't kind of need to overinflate myself because my record stands in and of its own.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. All right, and anything you got to say to your fellow chili competitors? One last time before this competition begins in August 13th.
Good luck, and may the best person win on the night.
Yeah, fucking. All right, legend. I'll let you go, mate. You have a good night, and thank you again for having the mad chat with us. And keep up the training, mate. You're going to need it because the Australian Chili Championships, it takes no prisoners. All right, mate. See you later, buddy. You have a good night.
Cheers, mate.
See you, mate. All right, Spice Legends, thank you so much for joining us for our bit of a chilly chat with old Dan Hot Wheels, the Dan Flynn. Absolute legend. He's the quintessential chili champ for an absolute reason. Just munching reapers and pods, not even sweating. I think he could be a genuine threat to the rest of the crew. Can he be a genuine threat to Greg Ironguts-Barlow? I don't know. We're about to find out. So August 13th, 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you're tuning into Burning by Stone Under. It's going to be a crazy competition. But I'll have to say for now, Spice Legends, just keep calm, be saucy.